Hey everybody, welcome back to Lunch Hour VR. I'm your host Max Noir, and today we're here with someone I'm very excited about as he has a great story. This is Alexander Clark. He is the founder of Starcade Arcade. Alexander, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm excited about this.
So where in the world currently are you?
I am currently in Houston, Texas, and
All right.
my co-founder and partner is actually in Seattle, Washington, so a little bit of a long distance.
Awesome. Long distance relationship. Love
Yes,
it.
definitely.
Great. So, Alexander, you guys have been making some really amazing traction in the VR development scene. We have some great clips to show you guys today. But could you begin with just giving like a quick introduction about yourself and what you guys have been working on recently?
Great, absolutely. Starcade Arcade is a VR game development studio. My best friend Brandon and I started it, I guess, around 3 years ago. We were fanatics of VR. We loved playing it. And when we looked at the titles and what was out there, we felt that there was a few gaps. And so we set out for ourselves as a personal goal of let's make some of the games that we want to play. And so that's why we started with creating Star Blazer, a space real-time strategy game. And then we released a second title this past year called Virus Popper, which is actually an educational title to help with the positive messages of safety during COVID. And then the third game we're about to release this spring called Space Slurpees is a arcade title that, again, we said, why has nobody thought to make this? We should make something like this. And so for us, it's just that like passion of like, let's make things that we want to make and play. And that's kind of our guiding star.
Totally. So if you play any of the Starcade Arcade games, you can definitely expect some passion in the games. I think games always turn out best when the people developing them are sort of doing that development out of their hearts and what they want to see in the games that they're playing themselves. So that's really great to hear. I'm going to play a clip from your first release, Star Blazer, and then you can sort of give us a little bit more of a rundown of what was going on there.
Great.
This is your very own fleet builder.
Orbit. Ready to fleet.
Select any loadout of your choice.
All hands. Star Blazer. Snipers, take your positions. Target acquired. Engage star. I'm waiting in the wings for entry to the atmosphere. I'm waiting in the wings.
Brought to you by Starcade Arcade.
I love the voices.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. They're fun, and we've met a lot of great people to work with on that too. So Star Blazer is interesting to me because sometimes I think it's like the best and worst decision that we've made. Worst in the sense that even when I first told people I want to make a multiplayer VR strategy game, I think it was my mom who looked at me and she goes, shouldn't you start with something smaller? and many people have given that feedback of like, why did you try to make something so ambitious and challenging? And so in a sense, that was a huge challenge and barrier just because I don't think like people had really mastered how to do strategy real time in VR, which is already overwhelming, and then multiplayer on top of it. But I say it's one of the best decisions because of what we learned with it. We learned so much about how people interact with VR, and I think it's really changed how we approach games and how we approach the development. And so, no regrets. And we love what we created in terms of we want to control a fleet of ships in VR, and that's what we set out to do and did it. So, pretty happy with it.
It's incredible. And when did you start developing this game, and when did you publish it?
It started, I think, 3.5 years ago, which is quite a bit of time. And when I started, I had never programmed in Unity before. Actually, the whole thing began as almost a side project just to like bring some of my development skills and sharpen them up, because I had a good career, good job, the path I was going down in engineering, but then a lot of it was more program management focused, and I thought, yeah, I want to make sure I'm like staying technical and coding. So I told Brandon, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna like build a computer that's capable of VR, maybe make a VR game, and then I'm gonna start learning Unity." And so what's unique about Star Blazer is the day I started Star Blazer is also the day I started learning how to develop in Unity. So the development has been somewhat of a ramp where it's like it's
Right.
spiked towards the end, as you get better and you learn more.
Totally. No, I'm not a dev yet. I've been trying to do some simple stuff
could do it.
recently, but
Yeah.
well, some of the advice that I've been getting from almost all the devs I've talked to thus far has been like, don't just start from the beginning watching random tutorials, but like have a project in mind that you want to make and start finding the tutorials that correlate with that project. So that sort of, sounds, I guess, what you just said. That's what I took from it.
I agree. I think that's good advice. You'd be amazed what you can learn on the internet. But it helps to set your learning topics based off of what you need to implement. Because then I think you're a little bit more driven to figure it out too. Because if I really need to implement this, then you're going to figure out how to do it.
Totally. So you mentioned that you were brand new to Unity when you started working on this project. So can you talk a little bit about sort of what you were doing beforehand and what brought you to do this?
Yeah, definitely. In general, I've always enjoyed the idea of game development. I remember like if I rewind way, way, way back in like 7th grade, I had a computer science project for science fair. And it was something lame around like statistics of world population. And I remember the teacher at the time, she was like introducing me to tutorials, and I saw it was like how to program video games. And that's when it like clicked. I was like, wait a minute, what I'm learning here could make video games. And so on the side, it had always been something that I tinkered with as a hobby, as a kid, just trying to make my own video games and develop those. And then obviously got a lot more serious a few years ago when I decided, no, I could actually make a product that people could enjoy. And so I guess one of the major shifts in game development was prior to that, I was enjoying a career as an engineer, and my background's like computer engineering, master's of double E. And so like the engineering work is very technical and it's interesting, but game development is also more about like art and design. And so what I found is that as I kind of changed to focus more on game development, the more I got to embrace that art and design side as well, which I really enjoy.
Awesome. I'd just like to point out that Romeo from LinkedIn said, the game looks amazing. I agree. And just for the audience out there, just a quick reminder that if you do comment, we'll be able to see it and we'll be able to showcase it. So if you do have any questions for Alexander, just put them in the comments and we'll definitely get to them.
Thanks, Romeo.
Great. So let's move on to your next game that came out, which I saw on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that this video clip got some good traction on social media, if I remember correctly, just because with it correlating with COVID, which is obviously something that everyone is heavily emotionally invested in. People are definitely very interested in this experience. So could you speak to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a little bit of a story, but I think it's a good one. So COVID started for Brandon and I when we first tried to go to Taipei Game Show. We were originally supposed to have a booth there. We flew all the way to Taipei. When we flew there, by the time our plane landed, CDC had declared COVID-19 a world epidemic, an emergency. They canceled the show, and so we're stuck in Taiwan and said, like, all right, I guess we just got to come back. There's no show. But what was interesting is as we were quarantining and I was discussing with Brandon kind of like, this is the very beginning of COVID, how the world was perceiving it. And he was telling me about like how his kids don't fully understand what's going on. And it's actually very frightening because all of the messages around washing your hands, wearing masks, things like that, they were portrayed in somewhat an intimidating manner. And I think when we looked around, we saw there was a lot of fear, and there was a lot of like unsettled people of all ages, really. And so we asked ourselves a question like, can we do something about that? And I think, I don't remember who said it. One of us was like, what can we do? Make a game? And then we said like, wait, maybe we could. And so then at that time, we were trying to wrap up Star Blazer. It was in early access. We wanted to get it out. And I was like, do we really want to take a little break on that and produce a second title to do this? And so Brandon said, I tell you what, tomorrow's Saturday. Why don't you just like see like where you go, take one Saturday to do it. I didn't wait till Saturday. That night, I grabbed some Red Bull and I said, all right, I have some ideas. I want to do it. So then like at 10 a.m. the next morning on Saturday, I said, I already sent you a build. He's like, what do you mean? He played it. He's like, I'm all on board. Put everything else on pause. We're doing this. And I was like, what do we call it? Virus Popper? And he's like, that's perfect. It's titled. And so then we made this game. It's called Virus Popper. And the goal was to be free. We knew from the beginning, for this to be an actual positive message for the right reason, it had to be free for people to get that visibility. As just a medium to share like some awareness. Again, this is very early on in COVID. I think everybody by now is well versed, but in the beginning, people weren't as well acquainted with like what they need to do to stay safe. They weren't sure how much was reality or what they need to focus on. And so we fast tracked it. I think developed the game in full in like less than 2 weeks, put it up on the stores.
Wow.
Yeah. It was very fast. And we called up our composer and we said, hey, Chalk Dinosaur, can you make us a song? It's for a good reason. We'll pay you. Don't worry. And then called up a voice actress friend of ours, said, like, we got to do this in a week. And the rush was actually worth it because a lot of the stores end up putting a ban on anything not directly health related to COVID-19. So actually, if you were to try to produce a game like that now, I don't think it would get approved by the stores. So technically we got in there and got it released, which is cool.
Well, congrats on getting it in there. And I think, you were talking about sort of like children and, how some of the information out there is a little bit too serious for them to wrap their heads around. And I think it's very true, not only for children, but also for adults, that if you're being told to do something and it's not fun or engaging in the way that they're telling you to do it, then it just feels like a chore and you want to do it less, which is really unfortunate that we sort of psychologically work that way. But I think you absolutely succeeded here in both educating and also having fun within the education. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think one of the coolest messages I received when we released it was I got a message from one of the schools in Houston, and they said that they were using our trailer as a PSA on their school website because they said, you know what, the other content out there, like kids don't get it. Yours is fun, but it still covers everything like important. And so they're actually using our trailer content to like help educate the kids, and they don't even have to do that by playing VR. And that was part of the idea, is that just that immersion of the right message.
That's very cool. Well, I'm going to play a clip so everyone can sort of check out the game and see what it looks like.
Hello there. Thank you for listening to this complimentary service announcement. We would like to remind everyone of a few personal hygiene and safety tips. First, always wash your hands with soap thoroughly for at least 20 seconds. Make sure you clean and disinfect all surfaces regularly. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Try to practice social distancing in areas where people are sick. If you have to cough or sneeze, cover your mouth with your elbow. If you're not feeling well, stay home. Overall, please be considerate of those around you. Be kind to people of all races and backgrounds. And finally, whatever you do, don't panic! To review all these safety tips, please join me in playing Virus Popper. Available for free on all major VR stores. Brought to you by Starcade Arcade.
It's so fun.
Still
I really
makes me
want to go
smile.
and download this now. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
definitely.
that's really cool. And I noticed right before we played it, you mentioned like calling up your composer, and I just wanted to point out that Mike from LinkedIn mentioned that he almost started dancing. This is when I played the first trailer, but it does seem like all of your games have like a really awesome soundtrack and sound effects. That's super cool. But could you
Thanks.
address this question that he's asked here?
Yeah, definitely. So Starblazer is released on Steam as well as Oculus Store and Viveport. So you can download it from any of those platforms. There is a free demo on SideQuest. We haven't got our Oculus Quest approval, so you can always help us out by following and helping show Oculus that we can deliver it. And definitely, you can play the demo and see that for yourself. But yeah, any of those platforms have Starblazer. And then the Unity versus Unreal question, I get that a lot, and my answer is actually not a good one. But I alluded to at the beginning that when I started development is the day I started learning Unity. And honestly, I think I just picked one and then ran with it. There wasn't a whole lot of thought, but it's worked really well for us. And in terms of like integration with VR, it's very easy to get started with Unity. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about the graphics capabilities of Unreal, so it depends. I don't have a strong preference. Just now I know Unity. And also Blender for the Starship and other object models. A lot of the freelancers that I use and work with use Maya for the 3D modeling. Now, I'll admit that I use Blender if I have to like edit and make tweaks. I'm not as good of a 3D modeler. I do a lot of development, I do the art design and the programming side. But if it's creating the 3D models, that's where I work with somebody else. And so they usually use a professional software like Maya. But there are still times that, you know, maybe I want to hack something together. Even like the popper from Virus Popper, the little virus, he's actually like a sphere, and then some bar stools are his like ears that I just stitched together. Because again, short timeline, I didn't have time to hire anybody, so I just hacked the thing together. So things like that I actually do use Blender because I like Blender and it's free.
That's cool. He's like a Frankenvirus.
Yeah, definitely. And
Awesome.
I wanted to also add on your comment on the music. That is something we're very passionate about. I don't know. It's one of those things that we actually get some raised eyebrows because we put so much focus on the music. Like, for instance, if you go to Spotify or any of the music streaming services, you can find our Starcade Arcade profile and see all of the songs and the soundtracks on there from a variety of artists. But custom music was something that we always wanted from the beginning. And we just felt like it's really important for the experience and something that we spend a lot of effort and focus on. In fact, it's like the one thing that I would say we're like gung-ho about wasting money on. Brandon keeps quoting John Hammond from Jurassic Park, where he's like, spare no expense, because that's typically how it is for the music. We're like, it's worth it. It's worth it.
That's so cool. I mean, music is very important to me, and I think it is to a lot of people. And I think that's just a very sort of unique, special touch that you've put into your development process. So definitely applause to you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, and we work with some amazing artists that really make it a good experience.
Beautiful. So you heard that, guys. You can go to Spotify and you can check out their playlist.
Yep.
Cool. So we can move on a bit. I wanted to ask you if you can touch on, because I know that you have a day job in tech, and then by night you're sort of, you're developing VR games. Those are two very different things. I'm sure that your life is very, very busy and full of work. And I know that there's a lot of aspiring devs out there in the world. So I would love it if you could sort of touch on, how you got started and what it's like to sort of have that balance between your day job and your night job.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first got started with development, I mentioned, I wanted to dive more into the technical side. I was doing a bit of program management. Now my career is taking me to where I'm actually an engineering manager, which with that comes a lot of responsibilities to like the company and my team. I'm very passionate about the team that works in my group. And so that can be quite demanding. And so just being realistic, it can be brutal to do both. And probably the best way to like explain what it's like is just to walk through one of my days. So every day I wake up at 4 a.m. It started at like 7, then went to 6, then went to 5, went to 4, kind of increasing
Oh
with my
gosh.
ambitions and goals. Because that's the only time like I can guarantee is Starcade Arcade time. So I work on Starcade Arcade from 4 till 8 a.m. usually. And then that's usually when I have to start my day job. Lunch break with COVID is now also maybe also Starcade time around 12. And then sometimes, day wraps up and the evenings vary. I mean, I definitely do have friends and family that I try to see from time to time, but also it could be Starcade Arcade again, maybe more of the biz dev side if the morning is development and coding. But then also I have a lot of night calls because of my job. We work with teams in Asia. About a third of my team is in Asia. And so I take a lot of night calls as well, which is part of the reason I do the super early morning, just knowing that I might have to work in that evening and not get a chance to focus. And so I'd be lying if I said it was easy. It's not, but it's worth it. I mean, I really enjoy waking up in the morning and like getting to work and create these things. Even without coffee, I have no troubles like getting the energy to work on this stuff in the morning.
That's so cool. I mean, I think a lot of us out there who do, art or projects of any sort, we understand what it's like to only want to work on them because you're passionate about them. And if you're not passionate, then you're just not going to put in the work. So it's really cool to hear like how hard you're working on these things, and it's very evident how passionate you are about them. So again, I applaud you for like, I can't believe you wake up at 4 in the morning. Did you see my face when you said that? I was like, oh no.
So not a morning person.
No.
Yeah. I don't think I
all.
am like by like biology either. I think I was born to be a night owl. But it's just kind of what I have to do. And for us, we felt it was very important. We wanted to be self-funded, and that's just how we built the studio. Is I've actually had investors approach. I've actually had people say like, how much are you looking for? And but we have never actively looked for investors or publishers, always with the belief that like the second we go down that path, we end up giving some amount of control over the creativity and what we want to do. And looking back, there's a lot of decisions that we made that I don't know an investor to agree with. Like, what do you mean you want to pause Star Blazer to release a free game? Like things like that. We want to have the control to do that and do what we think is best for our vision. So that makes it worth it.
Awesome. So what advice would you give to the aspiring devs out there? And also keeping in mind, those who might not have as much access to like be able to self-fund. What would you say to people out there who would like to sort of make a career out of this?
Yeah, I definitely, there's a lot of things that come to mind. The first one is just get started. I mean, I'm not kidding. The very first like Unity project that had the name Star Blazer on it was just these like gray ships flying in a square around the room. And I'm like, Brandon, look, it's VR. Like that's where it started. I mean, that's just where you have to start. Like, don't be afraid. Don't look at, maybe what we've created after these years and like think you can't get there. I don't think that's true. In fact, we watched this YouTube video. I remember it very distinctly. And it was like, how to get started with game development. And I felt like the person in the video was being very negative. They were like, don't set your goals on creating the next Call of Duty. If you can make a little platformer, like be happy with yourself. And I'm like, I think we could do better than a platformer. And so I want to encourage people, like, I honestly believe, if you put in the time and dedication, like you can create something amazing, whatever that is to you. As for like the funding piece, I wouldn't say that like there's a lot of creative ways to finance your projects and to get them off the ground. In fact, something I've talked about before, like I did a YouTube video. It was on the voice of Orbit. So Orbit's the robot character in Star Blazer. It's a female character. It's definitely my voice. And it's a good example of like when you don't have money for funding, you get really creative about how to create things. And it's like in this video, I'm like, yeah, I talk on a higher pitch. I record myself just, using the headset, and then I change the pitch in Audacity, which is free software. So now I have, vocal work for $0. And
Right.
we're always looking for things like that. Whenever we need to bring something into the game, we kind of ask ourselves, what's the cheaper way to do this? What's the creative way to accomplish the same goal? So and if anybody who's watching has like specific questions, I definitely have lots of advice on ways to get creative with your funds.
Well, that's great advice already, so I appreciate that. And if anyone wants to follow up with Alexander or the Starblazer Starcade Arcade team, you can. I mean, what's the best place to reach you? Would be Twitter or Discord,
Yeah,
right?
Twitter is definitely a good one. Yeah, and Discord is great. We would definitely love to see people join the Discord, and we're always available there.
Beautiful. So you can see their Twitter handle here. And as we are running out of time, I do want to showcase your last game and get you to talk a little bit about that, because I know that there's some exciting stuff coming up. So I'll just play the clip and then you can tell us all about it.
Great. Sounds good.
Brought to you by Starcade Arcade.
That's so good.
Thanks. We're really excited about it. The concept's simple. It's Snake in VR. Wherever your hand goes, the snake follows. But it's really fun. It's multiplayer. So we'll be releasing that this March. If you're eager to see what it's all about, we'll actually be giving beta access to the demo on our Discord starting this Monday. So anybody who wants to play it and see what it's all about, like, we'll give you access.
Ooh, that's very exciting. So everybody, I have put the link tree for Starcade Arcade in the description of this video. You should be able to see it on all the platforms except for LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, just pop on over to YouTube, and in the description, you'll see the link tree. You can access all of their social media accounts and their Discord, and also find out how you can download all the games.
Cool. And thanks, Mike. Yeah, we love this song.
It's a great song. It definitely gives me Daft Punk vibes.
Yeah, definitely. The artist of the song is Chalk Dinosaur, and he has some funky tunes. We love it.
Is he singing as well?
Yes. Yeah. we're like, can you do a
Super cool.
vocalizer, you know, kind of a high pitch, and you know, about these Slurpee snakes. He's very supportive, which is great.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. But Alexander, thank you so much for being on today. It's been tons of fun, and I'm super stoked to try out your games.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on, and I'd be glad to come any other time. So maybe we follow up.
Yeah, let me know. We'll have you on again.
Sounds good. All right. Well,
All
thanks so
right.
much.
Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next Thursday for our next episode.